I first met Phil in 1958 when I moved to Trimley with my family, and then went to school at what was the Felixstowe Secondary Modern School on the site that was latterly Orwell High School, now demolished. I soon met Phil, and we finished up in the same class. Always found him to be very intelligent. He always took an active role in debates within the class. Specifically, I remember geography lessons, history lessons, and English lessons, which in those days actually included English literature as well. And as I sort of look back after Phil's death, I sort of wonder how much those three lessons, which I know he actively enjoyed, played in the development of his later life. He was also a big sports fan, and he played football, soccer for the school team, cricket for the school team, and rugby for the school team. I also played rugby. It was an innovative sport at the time in a secondary modern school, was rugby, and frankly we weren't very good. And we used to play at other schools in the area, frequently losing hundreds of points to nil, but still we battled on, and eventually we got better, and we never ever won a match, but we didn't do the school too badly in the end. Phil went off to college and I went off to do an engineering apprenticeship, and we lost touch. Many years later, our wives, who were expecting our first children, met at a mothercraft class in Felixstowe, and Sarah, Phil and Jill's daughter, was born 3 months before my daughter, and then 3 years later, Christian, their son, was born 3 months before my son. So the families became quite friendly, or very friendly, and I always look back at Phil's again and found him to have been a loving family man, very devoted to his family. He cared a lot for them. And there, I suppose we became quite friendly as a family, and my acquaintance with Phil was renewed. He had a wicked sense of humour, that was the other thing. And I can remember one incident at school, very boring by modern standards, but we were studying Macbeth. And when we studied Macbeth, what it amounted to was you just read the play in those days and you took up roles. And I can't remember what happened, but I do remember Phil reducing the whole class to hysterics. And it was just one of those things that I will remember him for. As I said, it was a long, long time ago, and I don't remember specific incidents, and I don't remember what that was all about. But I do know that those readings of Macbeth put me off of Shakespeare for life, and it's only just recently been rekindled that I really enjoy it, but I knew that Phil really, really enjoyed drama.
I knew him as a teenager, 14, 15, and also we travelled to Suffolk College together when we were obviously a little bit older than that, and you see people around Felixstowe. He came back to this school, to the middle school, and you see people again, and also as a young dad he lived opposite my family, and his children were the same age as my children. They used to play together, so we've gone along the years really.
Did you ever go and do his quizzes?
Oh, definitely. Yes, we were firm quizzes. And I really would like to pay tribute to Jill here, because she was a huge help to him. And I know that they planned the quizzes together. She did the scoring, which is no mean feat. The quizzes were wonderful. He had a pattern to them, which we knew and loved. He raised so much money for charity and charitable causes. And it's a very sad thing, along with his passing, of course, it's a very sad thing that the quizzes have passed. Had some very happy years doing those.
I came to Felixstowe to take up a job at the middle school in 1970. Leaving a 2-week-old daughter in Gosport and no house to go to.
My goodness.
But I felt lucky, and one or two people in Felixstowe really looked after me. One of them was Will Derrant, and his father Sam, who I think are well-known Felixstowe people, builders. He gave me a house for 6 or 7 weeks, and his dad helped me to go and buy one on Cornwall Road. So Angela then appeared 6 weeks later into a house that she'd never seen. And so things were fairly tight, fairly stressed. Tense is a good word. And that is my first real remembrance of Phil as somebody who took a little bit of the tension out of my life. Along with Maggie Knights, who I think is also born and bred Felixstowe, a lovely lady. They just seem to have the confidence and the way of doing things well, but with a light touch, and maybe not taking themselves too seriously. Maybe what they did was serious, but and that was such a help. I think it was late in the cricket season, and I was keen on cricket, and Phil was keen on cricket, and so he was one of a network. I don't know whether he set it up, whereby we connected and communicated with each other throughout the day of a test match by sending pupils around and about with little notes and all this sort of thing. Just that type of thing. And his mannerisms about the school and in the staff room were just, yes, helpful.
Helpful and relaxing.
Yeah, I would say that Maggie always had a twinkle in her eye, and Phil always had his tongue in his cheek. They were a little bit... But I found it very helpful under those circumstances.
In the 70s and the 80s, when I knew Phil quite well, really, he did so many things for the school, above and beyond the call of duty. I remember particularly his school plays. He did several Shakespeare plays, one of which, Macbeth, really stuck in my mind. It was an outstanding school production, and I can still recall it, even though it was such a long time ago. He led school trips all over the place. He would constantly take trips, pupils, sometimes right across to Stratford just to see something, and to London. And he led lots of trips to across the North Sea during Venture Week. He was very active in that way and very committed to broadening pupils' experience. And he was a very good leader of trips. I remember he led a trip that I went on to Austria, and this was actually it was a school trip, but it was in the middle of the school holidays in August, and there were a few little crises, and he was very effective in a crisis. He very calm. He may not have felt calm, but he certainly appeared it. As a colleague, he was always reliable and supportive, and I felt he was really quite an effective spokesperson for the staff. Also, he had, and this is quite an important facet of his character, he had quite a mischievous sense of humour. He was a great practical joker, and many people recall some of the pranks he used to get up to at school. As a teacher, there are two words that really come to mind every time I think of Phil. It's enthusiasm and dedication. He was outstandingly good at getting the very best out of pupils by motivating and encouraging them, and particularly his school plays were a fantastic demonstration of that. And I feel strongly that he played a really important part in making Orwell High School then the sort of caring and supportive but forward-looking school community that it was. He played a really important role in that. I'm taken back to the first time I ever set foot in Orwell High School, which was the day I had my interview for the job there. And of course I was quite nervous, and I was actually sitting on my own in the staff room, wondering, and he came in and he sat down next to me and talked to me, told me about the staff, told me about the school, put me at my ease, and that was typical Phil. He was thoughtful and considerate, and that, I suppose that was my first meeting with him, and it's one that I will always remember. and I'll miss him a great deal. I really will.